People often say that death is the great equalizer, and it is very, very true. Whatever race, religion, age, or sex you are, when we die, we are all uniform. We are all the same. We all came from the earth, and to the earth, we all return. I don't know about you guys, but I don't obsess with death, believe it or not. I know my channel is practically based on it, but I actually don't. But sometimes, when I'm up at night, laying down in my van, I start thinking, I wonder what it's like. I wonder what people experience. And oftentimes I would read up on near-death experiences. And we'll touch on those those subjects as time progresses. But there's always a fear of the unknown. Some people stress about death. Some people don't even think about it. It just depends on who you are. But there's always a fear that people would have about when they die. One of those fears is being buried alive. Another fear that nobody talks about, that I've always thought about, is being cremated alive. When you add to the fact that the funeral industry, as cutthroat as it can be, it's getting more and more expensive to bury your loved ones. Basically, a lot of people have life insurance simply to pay for their funerals when they die. But people don't really talk about being cremated alive. It's something that when we think about it, we would think that's impossible. But of all the millions and millions and millions of cremations all over the planet, can you honestly tell yourself that it's never, ever, ever happened ever in your life? Well, today I'm going to tell you a quick story about a woman who, in my opinion, and this is just me, she was almost cremated alive. You don't believe me? Let me explain. Step into my time machine. We're not going to go very far back. We're only going to go to December of 2021. So you have an unidentified 66-year-old woman who's been diagnosed with end-stage early onset dementia, anxiety, and depression. She is brought to the Glen Oaks Alzheimer's Special Care Center, which is right in front of you, for her to live and for them to care for her. So she stays here for about the next 12 months or so until her condition starts to rapidly decline. On December 28, 2022, she's moved into hospice care here at this very facility. I don't know what would make this facility or any other facility move somebody into hospice care, but I'm just gonna guess that more than likely you probably stopped eating and you stopped drinking. And physically, your pulse is getting weaker and weaker. You're having bradycardia, which is a slow heartbeat. It's going to be very, very difficult to detect a heartbeat and a pulse. So when you have a patient and you're a caregiver, be it a nurse, your job is to make a person as comfortable as possible. I'm fairly certain, now I'm not 100%, but I'm fairly certain that this woman had a DNR. So she enters the hospice. On January 3rd, around 6 a.m., the nurse that is working at this facility is doing her rounds when she notices the patient is not breathing, not moving. She has mottled skin, and I'm assuming that she's had plenty of experience. So it's looked like, she's probably either has died during the night or she is very, very close to death. So they take her pulse. She takes her stethoscope. There's no heartbeat. There's no pulse at all. Now, in Iowa versus different states, it just depends on the medical board on what they determine who can do what. For instance, in Iowa, if you're a registered nurse, you can pronounce somebody deceased. In New York, I don't believe you can. I think you have to be a doctor. But here, paramedic can't pronounce you dead, but a nurse can, a PA can, and a doctor can as well. So she's pronounced dead around 6 a.m. on January 3rd, 2023. And this is the facility where she was pronounced. So after the lady is pronounced dead, in the article online, it says that a second nurse enters the room. I don't know if the nurse was a superior, supervisor, not sure. I don't know if they took her vitals again. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say something, a series of protocols that go as follows to pronounce somebody dead. One of those protocols was not followed. Maybe they didn't put on a pulse oximeter. I'm probably saying that word wrong. They call it a pulse ox for short. It's that thing that goes on your finger. It measures the oxygen in your blood. I don't know if you're supposed to put it on one finger or put it on the other finger, put it on a toe, whatever. I'm gonna guess something was not done. So they called the funeral home, which we're gonna go to. They pick her up. Now, I'm assuming the funeral home has done this plenty of times. This is nothing new. This is their job. And you can definitely tell somebody has died just by looking at their skin. It's going to be ashen. It's going to be mottled. It's going to have no color to it at all whatsoever. And of course, you're not going to see any kind of breathing. So the van comes, they pick up the lady, and the next stop is the funeral home. And 15 miles away is the Ankeny Funeral Home. And this was where the unidentified woman was brought to in preparation for her to be cremated. Now, by this time, she's in this establishment. She's in a body bag and it's zipped up. Now, I don't know how long it would have taken before they would have gone on with the cremation. Maybe a day or two, I don't know. So 45 minutes or so after she arrives at this location, I guess they're doing their paperwork, and one of the funeral home employees notices that the body in the bag is moving. Now, people may not know this, but when you die, sometimes, not very often, but sometimes you do have involuntary muscle spasms. Now, you're not going to be moving and all this and that, but a friend of mine who's a nurse did say that, or used to be a nurse, did say that one time they were treating a patient. It was an older lady and she had died, and about 25 minutes after she was pronounced dead, she opened her eyes while she was in the ER. I don't know about you guys, but I would have jumped out of my shoes if I would have seen that. So maybe they're thinking it's muscle spasms, but no, the chest is moving up and down, and you're hearing agonal breathing, like gasping for air. And I don't know what their reaction is, but you already know what mine would have been. So they immediately unzip the bag, and they see this woman breathing very much alive. So immediately they call 911. Now here's where you have, I don't know what the words to explain it, but this is where you have a series of directives that you're supposed to follow. Now, this lady, like I said earlier, more than likely probably has a DNR. But I don't think the paramedics know this. And it's your job as a paramedic to save lives or treat the injured, the sick, or what have you. So the paramedics come to this location. They come and pick her up and take her to the closest hospital in the area. And they do whatever it is that they do to bring her back, and they stabilize her, or as stabilized as you can get. and they bring her right back to the hospice, the place where we were at earlier. Now, sadly, the lady who was dying did end up passing on the 5th, which would have been 2 days later. I cannot imagine the roller coaster that the family of this unidentified person went through. I mean, it's unreal. It is, just to say the least, a very strange story. A story that you've seen before somewhere online, but a very scary story in my personal opinion. Well, that's the end of the video, and I don't know about you guys where you're at, but it's 93 degrees out here. I'm standing under the shade. So to conclude and wrap up this video, I got a couple questions that I was trying to wonder myself. Number one, what happened to the nurse that pronounced her dead only for her to have not been dead? Do you think she was fired? What happened to her? I'm gonna guess she was not fired, and I called a nurse friend of mine, and he believes that more than likely the nurse was not fired, probably reprimanded, had a talking to, went over the protocols that you're supposed to go through in whatever jurisdiction you work at, and that was it. Oftentimes, doctors and nurses, when you see one injured person, you see them all, and you get a little bit jaded. So I'm pretty sure the nurse still works at that location. I'm pretty sure the family has quite a lawsuit on their hands. And I'm pretty sure that the employee that was watching me record on their property is probably wondering what I'm doing. I'm making a video about you guys. I just want to say this before I end the video. Watching your loved one slowly fall into or deteriorate into dementia, it's got to be very, very sad is not the word that I want to use. Emotionally draining. You know, my nanny was kind of going through that stage, and you know, the last time I seen her, she was 94 years old, and she didn't quite know who I was, but she knew who I was, but she was like, is this I'm her great grandson? And you know, I can only imagine for the family the suffering that they went through. So I'm glad that as things ended badly, I'm glad that the lady was taken care of in the final moments of her life. And you know, they kept her comfortable. She had morphine. I think it's called lorazepam, which is it's a drug to calm people. So very young to die, 66, 67 she was. That's awfully young. I've never heard of people that young coming down with dementia, but what are you gonna do? Leave a comment below, tell me what you think about this story. I'm out of here, I'm in the road. I have to venture out into the sun. Not always a bad thing though. I always thank God that I am live, but not live, but still alive by the grace of God. Lamont at large, I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.